held at Peabody Wigan Auditorium. This meeting will be broadcast to public television. Access can be obtained through Zoom. First order of business is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held October 7th, 2021.
Mr. Chairman, move approval of those minutes.
Second.
Aye.
Good evening. So I'm here to gain approval on purchasing a parcel of land that borders my property and a neighbor. And the neighbor is Ed Craig, who I believe is dialed in on Zoom. This is my second visit, as there was some confusion on the initial survey drawing that was submitted regarding what defined my land ownership and my neighbors and what exact piece of land was being transferred. Hopefully the drawing clarifies that now, and I'd refer to Note 4 that states the actual transition of the land from Lot 3A, which is at the top of the drawing, top center, to Lot 4A, middle and the bottom, which is my lot. The parcel is roughly 2,900 square feet. It's non-buildable. There's no access to the road or anything like that. It's basically just a barrier between the neighbor and, myself in terms of gaining a little bit more privacy on my side.
Any questions from the board? At this time, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Chair, just before you continue, the neighbor that was mentioned, Ed Craig, is here via Zoom. Would you like me to unmute him?
Yes, please. Mr. Craig?
Can you hear us, Mr. Craig? I've unmuted him, yeah.
I would doubt very much Mr. Craig is in opposition.
No, in fact,
He's part of the deal, so.
right. I spoke to him today, and a question on his behalf, since he can't get through, is he was wondering what the next step is in terms of getting the original drawing signed off so that he can get a copy to bring to his attorney.
Yeah, what we can do is we can sign the Mylar, and then if he wants a copy as well, Tom, maybe you can send a copy for our copy for ComDev, and then you could send a copy as well that we can hand to them that you could hand to attorney or your neighbor.
I'm all set.
All right, at this time, I will accept the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of an A&R plan of land in Peabody, Mass, prepared for Kim and Carrie Quintal and Edgar W. Craig, 3 Forbes Way and 6 Rita Way, respectively. The date on the plan is July 20th, 2021, revised September 30th, 2021. The plan was drawn up by David P. Terenzoni, 4 Allens Road, Peabody, Mass. Parcel C shall be combined with Lot 4A to become one contiguous lot with combined area of 20,809 plus or minus square feet.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take a roll call. Mr. Feld, Mr. Evanides, Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Simoes,
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez,
Yes.
Mr. Gagnon,
Yes.
Dr. Otto.
Yes.
Passes.
Okay. Very good. Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is site building permit plan reviews, 68 Prospect Street, continued from the last meeting.
On 68 Prospect Street, they, as the board knows, undergoing site plan review, third-party reviews at the moment. They have since received their third-party review. Department of Public Services has made comments upon that third-party review in the letter submitted back. And so they have submitted that to the applicants, and it was placed in your packets this week. It's a pretty lengthy document. I have a hard copy here if anyone wants to read it or take it with them. But they are not here tonight as they had just recently provided new plans with said comments on it today to Department of Public Services. So they have yet to review it. I would foresee them being at next meeting, whenever that is.
Next item on the agenda is the application, CV 13 Corwin LLC, construction of a 61,000 square foot warehouse facility, also carried from the last meeting.
Mr. Chair, as mentioned at the last meeting, they are undergoing site plan or third-party review at the moment. Those are out. We're just awaiting those back. I foresee that being maybe a couple meetings before they'll be back, or more.
Appointments, subdivision, board action, request for acceptance for Boulderwood subdivision. Is the city solicitor here?
Just before we begin, board, Mr. Chairman, per the last meeting, the board requested Attorney Khan, city solicitor, be at this meeting. He is here tonight, as well as Mr. Salamini on behalf of Boulderwood. I've invited him here for the board's clarification on items that they've been requesting.
You're welcome.
My name is Donald Kahn. I'm the city attorney for the city of Peabody. I'm here at the request of the board to address any questions or concerns you have relative to the Boulderwood subdivision. Prior to coming to the meeting today, I reviewed the consent agreement, which included the conditions imposed relative to the subdivision, the settlement agreement from July of 2012, and the so-called water tower agreement, which was an amendment, an attachment to that agreement. I also attended a meeting on September 12th with Mr. Labossiere, who was the Director of Public Works, and the developers, at which time there was a review done to determine what, if anything, needed to be done from the public services perspective relative to any outstanding issues. Prior to the meeting tonight, I spoke with Mr. Labossiere again to confirm that from his perspective, there are no outstanding public services issues relative to this subdivision. And I'm happy to entertain any questions that members of the board might have.
Questions from the board? Dr. Otto?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to Attorney Khan. Some of the material received in this evening's packet has highlights in it with issues of concern, I guess. And so I wonder if you are able to update us on how the transition plan will actually be implemented.
Excuse me?
How the transition plan to tie the system in will be implemented.
My understanding is that the developer has been working and meeting with Mr. Labossiere, and that the transition issues either have been resolved or there's been a framework set to resolve the issues.
And does that mean the city will be doing the connecting work? I'm sorry. Does that mean the city will be doing the work of connecting the high service line to the rest of the system?
I'm not clear as to who will be doing that work.
Okay, that was one of the items that, on my mind at least, was sort of a big-ticket item to close out this subdivision. And Mike had represented at the last meeting that the Solominis will not be making that transition, doing the actual construction work, which begs the question, then who is?
Well, I would respectfully suggest that if the developer is not doing it and the Public Services Department is satisfied, then the Public Services Department will be doing the work.
Thank you.
Any other questions to the board? Yes.
I do, through the chair to Attorney Khan. I wasn't on this board when the original approval got made, so can you just quickly describe, you talked about 3 agreements. I'm familiar with the water tower agreement. Can you just very briefly describe what the consent agreement was and what the settlement agreement was?
Certainly. There was litigation relative to this subdivision, I believe, in the early 2000s. I wasn't here at that time either. The litigation was resolved in 2007 when the city and the developer entered into an agreement for judgment. And the agreement for judgment basically indicated that the subdivision could go forward with a set of conditions that were attached to that agreement.
Okay, that answers a lot, because I was thinking that the consent and so the settlement agreement is the settlement of, as a result of a judge issuing a consent agreement. Is that fair?
Now, let me just walk through the 3 agreements in chronological order. Thank you. If I could go through these 3 agreements in chronological order. The litigation was settled in 2007. There was an agreement for judgment which was made between the parties. And an agreement for judgment is a document that's submitted to the court and ends the litigation. Attached as an exhibit to the agreement for judgment was a detailing of conditions relative to the work that would be performed in connection with the subdivision. My understanding is that there were letters relative to enforcement of potential violations that issued in the 2012 timeframe, and that action was resolved by the execution of a settlement agreement in 2012. And after the settlement agreement was executed in July of 2012, the parties executed what I refer to as the water tower agreement, which set forth the responsibilities for the developer relative to the water tower.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Certainly.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions from the board? Attorney?
To Attorney Khan, through you, Mr. Chairman. And I may be a latecomer to this question, but I know that several times before the board in the last year or two, the question of acceptance by the city of the water tower and transfer of title has come up. And it's one of the things that's highlighted, as was mentioned by Judy, as being an issue of concern. Can you tell us why the provisions of Section 7 of the water tower agreement haven't been fully implemented by now? It's on page 6.
Mr. Avenitis, that paragraph 7 is funds shall be dispersed on a monthly basis from the water system escrow account to pay for the cost of construction. Is that the paragraph you're referring to?
No, it says upon completion and final inspections and startup of the water tank, related water pump system, the 1,000 feet of 12-inch water main in Bartholomew Street and the 12-inch water main within the subdivision of Gedney Drive and Mars Circle that connect the pump station to the water storage tank, collectively known as the South Peabody High Service System, as reviewed and approved by Weston and Sampson, or such mutually agreed upon engineer the city and the Mass DEP if applicable. Solemnini shall transfer good and clear marketable title of the water tank lot and parcel A1 to the city, along with ownership of the tank, pumps, and associated equipment, free and clear of encumbrances. An as-built plan will be given, and a one-year warranty would be provided to the city by Solemnini. It seems to me that all of the conditions precedent to those things happening have occurred.
They have not occurred?
Have occurred.
Yes.
The water tank is complete, it's been started up, it's running, and as I read this, the city would have been given a title to the property and taken over ownership as set forth in paragraph 7 by now. Am I missing anything?
No, I think that the city should, at this point, take title to the
Well, my
water
next
tower,
all right, so
provided that
how
your
will
board-
that be implemented?
Excuse me?
How can that be implemented now?
You mean the transaction?
Yes.
I'm assuming that if this board acts favorably, that a deed will be tendered to us by the developer, it will be recorded, and we will take ownership and title to the water tower.
Is board action required for these things to occur?
No, I don't think board action is, I think approving the final bond, releasing the bond on the subdivision is required, yes.
Okay, that's not written into this section 7. You may be right about that, but I don't see that a final approval of the subdivision is a prerequisite to this. Perhaps it is.
I think as a practical matter, just resolving all issues relative to this would be in the best interest of all concerned at this point in time, unless there are outstanding issues or concerns that the board has that haven't been addressed.
But are you able to take any position or make any statement on behalf of the city relative to whether or not everything that the developer is required to do vis-a-vis this agreement has been done?
I can relate to you that I have inquired to the Director of Public Works relative to this on numerous occasions, and he has indicated to me that he does not believe that there are any outstanding conditions.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
Just a comment. One thing that troubles me a bit about this whole thing and how long it's languished is that there's a private developer who, in this case, happens, in my opinion, to have done a very good job with this subdivision, and he's trustworthy, is in charge of a water system for 112 homes and not the city of Peabody. That troubles me. He's paying the bill to run the pump station. He's having to maintain whatever maintenance there is on that tank. And it's been going on now for, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 years. Not to mention the amount of water that has to be wasted every day because the tank is too big. And the city approved the size of that tank, and Weston and Sampson designed the tank, but it's too big. And they have to waste water to turn it over because of some chemical that ends up in the water because of the treatment, the disinfection of the water. And it's too bad. But I agree with the board member who just spoke that this needs to be signed off and end. My other belief is that we were told last week that this board was signatory to that agreement in addition to the mayor. At least that's what we were told. So if we have to sign something off or take a vote, we would like to be told, I guess, or suggested to what we do to properly do this.
The agreement does provide signature lines for the mayor and the board. I would suggest that it's appropriate for the board to take a vote, and this matter will be resolved expeditiously.
Wonderful, thank you.
Excuse me, Attorney, do we take two separate motions, one to accept the subdivision and one to accept the water tower agreement?
I would take two votes. This is kind of an unusual
Yeah,
circumstance.
I would think that's right. Any other questions from the board?
Just a quick question. If the board votes to release the bond tonight, and you said there has to be a preparation of deed by the developer, is that true, or is it by the city?
It's not clear in the agreement who prepares the deed. Preparing the deed would not be a difficult or time-consuming matter.
My request individually is that when we vote, if we vote to approve this evening, that the city move forward as fast as they can to release, to get the deed on file, so the developer doesn't have to, attain any further, bills for this water tower that they've been paying for many years. I mean, let's cut them a break and get this done as soon as possible.
It's my intention to work with the counsel for the developer, who I've been in communication with, and have this resolved as quickly as we can.
That'd be great, thank you.
Just one more thing, maybe Mike knows this, I'm sorry. But there's another lot at the bottom left corner of Gedney and Bartholomew that contains the pump station and a retention vault of some sort. Does that parcel go with the water tank too, or just the pump station?
So that parcel is transferred to a third party, somebody lives there, but easement and gross was retained for the pump station and the driveway surrounding it.
Okay, so in the agreement, the pump station is in the agreement, and that'll go with the tank?
Correct.
Very good, thank you.
Any other questions? At this time, I'll accept the motion to accept the request from Boulderwood subdivision for the acceptance of the subdivision.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would move that the planning board recognize that the Boulderwood subdivision is complete. Further, I would communicate with the city council to take possession of said subdivision.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Call, please.
Mr. Feld.
Yes.
Attorney Avernites.
Yes.
Mr. Ford. Yes. Mr. Simoes.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez. Yes. Mr. Gagnon.
Yes.
Dr. Otto.
No.
Mr. Bencourt.
Yes. At this time, I'll accept the motion to accept the water tower.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would move that this board recognize the water tower, and the water tower agreement has been fulfilled by the developer, and again, the city should, through the city council, take possession of said water tower and all that it entails.
Have a
Second.
Mr. Feld.
Yes.
Attorney Avernites.
Yes.
Mr. Ford.
Yes.
Mr. Simoes.
Yes.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Yes.
Mr. Gagnon.
Yes.
Dr. Otto.
No.
Mr. Bencourt.
Yes.
I don't have a hard copy of that plan with me, but I can go upstairs and print it at the end of the meeting, and then I'll sign it, and then I can send it over, or scan it and send it over, but you'll probably need wet signatures for both of them. At the end of the meeting, I'll run upstairs and get it, and then I can have the board sign it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Correspondence, special permit application. Is that in here?
No, it's in the packets.
Yeah. Other matters properly before the board?
Mr. Chairman, once again, and I've requested this many months and a few years now, is that our last board meeting, there were only 5 members present. If one member didn't show up out of that 5, we would have had to postpone that meeting. I think it's very important that we have 2 vacancies on the board now, that they be filled as soon as possible, and I'm hoping that, Drew, you could pass that on to the mayor again. I just hate to see things slow down because we don't have a quorum.
Any other matters before the board?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.